Always find joy in the smallest of things. That is what we found in you. Oh, 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 you are joy. Never give up when the going gets rough. Hope is everything you need. Oh, 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 you are hope. Oh, 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 you are hope. And don't forget you're not alone. The Holy Spirit wants to guide you on.
Hello everyone, my name is Jim Rice and I'm coming to you today to talk about mental health issues. I'm currently serving as the president of the Texas Association of School Boards. I'm also serving as the vice president of the Fort Bend Independent School District Board of Trustees. In my capacity in both of these institutions, I've been working with my peers and with the superintendents and executive directors to make sure that all of our children receive a quality education so they can be prepared to be successful in life while they're in school and especially after they have graduated from high school, prepared to go on to college or to an associate college or technical school or the military, and have learned skills to help them be successful in life. Along with this comes mental health issues, particularly now as we return from COVID and the self-imposed isolation that we had beginning right after spring break in 2020, when all of the kids who might have been traveling during spring break or were at home and expected to return to school immediately following, and suddenly we couldn't. No one could. And we had to pivot on a dime and transition from face-to-face learning to online learning almost overnight. That was a pretty steep learning curve, and it took a heavy toll on our students. And not just our students. It took a toll on our teachers. It took a toll on our counselors. It took a toll on our administrators, on our superintendent, on the board of trustees, on our parents, everyone in the community. You all lived through it. I don't have to tell you what a change it was in our life. We're social creatures, and for almost a year now, we haven't been able to be social. We've been interacting with everyone online in a virtual world, and it's not the same. But we also have to be aware of the mental health challenges that a lot of the kids went through. Some of the things that we have involved in our school district are licensed professional counselors. We don't have near enough. We have 6 of them. They're spread pretty thin, as you might imagine, but all it takes is money. We also have, we partner with other groups to help provide either mental health counseling or in the case of Clear Hope Counseling Services, they exist to remove access to barriers to service and point people in the right direction so that they can get served. Invo Healthcare partners with 8 of our elementary schools and 1 of our middle schools. They take a multidisciplinary approach to the treatment of students who are suffering with mental health issues and challenges and social and emotional learning issues. And grief and loss is a big thing that has affected our children. Grief is a normal and it's a natural reaction to a loss of any kind. It could be a loss of a loved one. It could be a loss of a parent's job and the insecurity and the instability that comes from that. All of our lives have been touched, and learning how to deal with grief in a constructive way is important. Social and emotional learning is very important to our children, and another group is involved with positive behavior intervention and supports, or PBIS. That focuses on prevention and not punishment by focusing on what is motivating the behavior behind someone acting out so it can be dealt with in a constructive way. And the last one is cybersecurity. The kids have all been on social media, which, if you're a parent, you know that's not the greatest thing in the world, because for some reason when we're on social media we do and say things that we normally would not say if we were meeting someone face to face, and it creates a lot of pressure on the kids, and it's not good. So dealing with all of these issues is extremely important to the health of our children and their families, and by extension our schools and our community. So being aware of mental health issues and being not afraid to talk about those issues and helping people get the help they need, pointing them in the right direction, that starts with having conversations with students, from their teachers, with their parents, with other agencies that partner with our schools to come in and talk to the kids and let them know it's nothing to be ashamed of. You may know someone who has some mental health issues. You may notice some behavior that they're exhibiting amongst their friends and so forth. And letting an adult know about that can oftentimes provide a way out of that self-destructive behavior through good treatment.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Dr. Connie Almeida, and I'm the Director of Forbin County Behavioral Health Services. I've actually been with the county in this position for over 10 years, and very proud to be the founding director of this department, and the work that we do with our justice partners, our community, and our behavioral health providers in the community, and several of the other county organizations. So for about 5 years, I worked very extensively with youth with serious emotional, mental health problems, learning disabilities in the public school system. So great experience doing that, again, looking at how we identify the needs that children have and looking at how to address those needs. I'm going to talk a little bit about children, and because if we're really going to make a difference, we need to start early. So we're very fortunate that we've been able to continue, that specialty court that we refer to as the Infant Toddler Court Project. We've been able to continue that. We receive a little bit of money from VOCA, and again, with the support of the county, but we have a developmental psychologist on board that provides visit coaching. We provide TBRI, trust-based relationship interventions, and we work very closely with the courts and with these children and their parents to heal trauma, to provide parents with the skills and the support and the knowledge and the resources to be able to connect with their children. I just think that that's a fascinating program, and hope that someday we'll be able to expand that. But the work there is really about helping individuals regulate their emotions and their behavior, helping parents understand and respond to their children's emotional, developmental, and physical needs, and really helping children heal. As you can imagine, the individuals we work with often have not only one risk factor, but multiple risk factors. Our services are free, so we really often deal with individuals that are homeless or at risk of homelessness, multiple criminal justice involvement, many have, obviously, everyone has some mental health need. Several also have some intellectual developmental disabilities, and many have co-occurring substance abuse disorders. But many also have other barriers to care, like the lack of access to physical health care. Of course, lack of insurance. They have a history of trauma. People with mental illness are often victims of trauma. They live in unsafe neighborhoods. They live in inadequate housing, which again puts them more at risk, not only for health conditions, but for further traumatization and further involvement with the criminal justice system. You know, we know housing, safe and stable housing is key. It's key to keeping families together. It's key to keeping individuals from coming back into our criminal justice system. You know, the individuals that we work with have multiple risk factors and multiple needs. So many of them are uninsured. Many of them lack safe and stable housing, which is a critical piece to keeping children and families together and to keeping people out of the criminal justice system. You know, again, the individuals that we see, obviously all of them have mental health needs, some degree of mental health needs, often have a history of complex trauma and victimization. Many have intellectual developmental disabilities also. Several have been involved in you know, CPS. Unemployment is always a major factor, you know, something that we need to address. We know that having, again, a job, in a job that pays enough for you to pay your rent is key to keeping you out of the criminal justice system. So, you know, and again, unfortunately, legal involvement or a criminal history is often a barrier to employment. So we work really, really hard at removing those barriers to care. Many of you have heard about social determinants of health, you know, things like access to food, safe and stable, safe neighborhoods, safe and stable housing, social supports, transportation, all those things that we often think about, you know, social services, we now really have increased our focus on and really talk about social determinants of health. Addressing those social determinants of health is critical to improving health outcomes for individuals. Really has to be a core of what has been, of what is done as a system of care, and not often as this afterthought. So really paying attention to those kinds of things. You know, we, in Fort Bend County, we're very fortunate. We have a lot of resources, but let's not forget that we still have a lot of children with food insecurity. We have a lot of individuals that worry about where they're going to sleep that night. And we also need to be aware of health inequities among our population. Truly, if we're going to make a difference, we have to invest early, and we have to invest in our children. You know, it was interesting when we started working with the babies. It's like, well, why are you working with the babies? You know, I mean, they're not causing problems. They're not a public safety issue. Well, over 1/3 of the children, and I don't have the recent statistics, but I'm confident on these data, you know, over 1/3 of the children that were coming into CPS or that come into CPS are birth to 3-year-olds. And again, I haven't checked the Texas stats lately, but that's the trend. So we have a lot of young children entering the foster care system. And the main reason, or one of the main reasons those children come into the system involves parental substance abuse. So we need to help those families with those issues that interfere with their ability to take care of their children so that they can get their children back and so that there can be a healthy relationship. Anyway, so you can kind of, you know, you can see how it's not a simple problem and it's not a simple solution. You know, delivering services in silos is not effective. It's a lot of work to build these collaborations and these systems, but that's what it's going to take. None of us can do this work alone, but together we can. And really addressing these multiple issues, listening to our stakeholders, our community, what is needed, you know, really taking the time. And this is a perfect example of this project. It's like, taking the time to listen to what people need and engaging those stakeholders at multiple levels to really improve the health of our community. Back to the children, very important, and back to prevention. So we're really fortunate that we actually have a relatively recent initiative in Fort Bend County that's led by our DA's office, our DA Brian Middleton, the Expose Excellence in Youth program. Again, this is an initiative with multiple partners, with the leadership coming out of the District Attorney's office, to really create a system where youth feel like they have hope, and where they can get the services and the supports to help them have positive outcomes. So to help them graduate from school, get jobs, feel like they have a place to belong in their community. So it's an amazing initiative that really has started just the beginning of this year, and already our juvenile probation department has developed a strong service delivery program for these kids, really focusing on building protective factors, delivering wraparound services, connecting kids to employment opportunities, and again, addressing their mental health and substance abuse issues as needed.
Okay, good morning. How are you all today?
Good.
Good, great. Good, thank you so much. I'm so glad you're here and appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules. I know you're all seniors and about to graduate, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
This is a big moment, a big step in your life after 12 years of school, right?
Yes.
Yeah, phew, huh? Well, the first thing I'd like to ask you about is, I know you're all going to college, and some students may be going to trade school, or they may just go out and start working right now, or whatever. But I'd like to start around the room with you, Faith, if it's okay, and tell me how did you, I know it can be a very stressful situation, but how did you decide where you're going to school?
I'm going to Texas A&M Corpus Christi. So my family friend that I grew up with, my dad's best friend, his son goes there, and he's been like a brother to me growing up. And so I went up and toured. He showed me around. It's right on the beach, which I really love the beach. And it was really important to me that I pick a small enough campus where the teacher to student ratio was small enough to make like a relationship with your professors, because I want to be a teacher. So I feel like it's important when studying education to like learn from professors that want to make time to have a relationship with their students, because that's like what I want to do too. So that's why I picked Texas A&M Corpus Christi.
And when I was choosing a college, I had a lot of interactions with advisors and college counselors, but I ended up choosing to go to WashU in St. Louis. So that actually wasn't from them, but really because of a recommendation from an uncle. And I found that I really liked it. Visited not too long ago. It's beautiful. It's great. I never would have thought really that I would be going to a school outside of Texas. So we were really surprised, but no, it's great.
Oh, so I'm going to go to San Diego State for basketball. I chose it because I like the coaching staff there. It was like it made me feel at home. So,
How did you decide that college in particular? Have you toured other colleges?
yeah, when I went to other colleges, like, it wasn't like, I didn't feel like it was the right fit for me. Like, when I talked to them, it was the right fit.
Okay, good. You just felt comfortable.
Yeah, like, you click.
Awesome.
Click
Good.
together.
So I decided I'm going to swim for Western Colorado University. And the way I picked how I was going to go there is, so I started the recruiting process with NCSA for swimming, because I always knew that I wanted to swim for college. So I cast my net as large as I could and talked to as many coaches that I could. And I ended up having a video chat with the coach from Western Colorado University, and he invited me on a recruiting trip. And at the recruiting trip, I had so much fun. And after I got back, I couldn't stop talking about it, and I knew that's where I wanted to go.
So we are here to talk about mental health today also. And obviously I see the calmness with your mental health now after you decided where to go to school, which is great. And so just tell me, just off the top of your head, when I say the word mental health, what do you think of? Let's start with you, Patrice.
something like stopping you from doing what you really want to do. Like maybe you have like fears. You don't know really what to like say. It's like you're mentally blocking yourself. Things like that.
Yeah, good answer. Faith?
I think mental health is the same thing that you think of when you say physical health, but for your mind. So when you talk about physical health, you think about eating right and working out, and if you get hurt, taking care of it and all those things. And I think when you talk about mental health, it's all those things, but for your mind. So that means like taking time to make sure that you know how you're feeling, and if that you're feeling down, you make sure you take care of that, and just being patient with yourself, and understanding that your emotions are part of you and you shouldn't just move through life without acknowledging them.
Excellent. Great. All good answers. James?
Well, for me, I usually think of it more in terms of, I guess, control, like being able to have an influence over your life and, know what you want to do and where you want to go and be able to go out there and do it.
So when I think of mental health, I think of a mindset. So my mom always talked to me about growth mindsets and fixed mindsets. And a growth mindset, she explains, is someone who is maybe I can't do this right now, but that's now. Like I can do it later. Or and then a fixed mindset is I can't do this. Like I'll never be able to do this. And so having a growth mindset, is like where I strive to be in my mental health specifically, because I feel like when I have a growth mindset, I can start to reach the goals that I want to get to, and that's what I think of when I think of mental health.
Awesome. And of course, we live in Texas, but we have 49 other states, and all of those states and high school students are going through similar things that you're going through too. So let's go around the table and tell me, just list something, just two things. What do you think that causes stress in high school? Kate, let's start with you.
Oh man. So I think the biggest things is relationships. Could be relationships, or just friendships. I think that's the first big thing that stresses out a lot of kids. And I think the second thing is probably, at least for me, like the workload. Not quite the workload. More of the
studying homework.
Yeah, studying homework, stuff like that.
Trying to keep your grades up and
grades mostly.
And while swimming,
grades.
Probably at 5 a.m.
Yes, exactly, exactly. That's the most stressful thing for me.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. How about you, Patrice?
I think the most stressful thing is like your parents, then grades in that order, because like what you do what your parents want you to do. So like sometimes your parents might be expecting too much from you. You don't know how to handle that at that age yet. So it might lead you to do things you don't really want to do.
Gotcha. And that causes stress on you to do all the different things that, you want to do some things, and your parents have expectations too. Definitely. James?
I guess I think not so much grades as the kind of creeping feeling on your back that what you're doing now will affect you for the rest of your life. That's kind of been the source of pretty much all of my anxiety. And I think about what I'm doing every day and trying to make up for that later.
Do you feel like a little bit sometimes your parents talk to you about that too? Is that you got to make decisions, and you might get this income, or you might get this income if you don't, or things like that too?
I mean, they've been really supportive of me, and although I do feel like I have some sort of obligation to do well, right? And they expect me to succeed, and I want to succeed, and those aren't necessarily bad things in themselves, but it can sometimes be hard to keep up with all of that.
Right, and a little pressure and stress there about what, and it is hard at your age. Is, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with my life? And so on. But just a little hint that I can't tell you how many people that have reached my age that may have changed careers a couple times. So keep that in mind. Whatever you think that you may be studying, you may get a degree in that and so on, but there's other things you may want to do later too, because as we grow and evolve, talking about growth, of course, our thought patterns change sometimes. And so just keep in mind, if that does happen in any of your lives, that don't allow it to stress you out. That's where the depression, anxiety, and that kind of thing comes in. That, like you said, like your dad said, no matter what you do in life, it's going to work out. Faith?
What I was going to say is actually pretty similar, but a little bit different, but it has to do with growth. I think in high school, a lot of people are really worried about like, who do I want to be? What kind of person do I want to be? Like, what kind of extracurriculars do I want to take on? What kind of people do I want to involve myself with? And it's something that can cause a lot of stress because we don't know. Like, we're at the age where we don't know. And I think being a senior, we've kind of figured out we don't have to know yet. We don't have to know right now. But throughout high school, that's not always something you know. And so it causes a lot of pressure, especially whenever we're still in like the social environment that we're in, where there's people who are with social media, who are looking at who we are, looking at the things we're doing, and we know like we're being judged for them. So it's just kind of hard to navigate through that, find like what you like and be comfortable in it right now. And I think for anyone that's struggling with that, they should really just take comfort in the fact that you don't have to know right now. And you have like your whole life to figure it out. And just because you like something right now doesn't mean you have to like it later. And just because this is who you want to be right now doesn't mean that's who you have to be later. And nothing is really permanent. And I think that's something that is really stress relieving once you understand that. The other thing would be, like Kate said, relationships and friendships, because we're still at the age where we don't really know what healthy and unhealthy friendships or relationships look like. And so it's hard to know, like, is this a good friend? Is this not a good friend? If this is a bad friend, what do I do about that? How do I go about that situation? And so it's just a lot of stress navigating through how to handle and manage our relationships and friendships in the best way for us, but without hurting other people's feelings or making people mad at us and things like that.
And the other thing I heard every single one of you saying that is getting out, physical activity is very, do you all agree that's important for positive mental health?
Yes.
Definitely. And I think sometimes, people that out do feel depressed or whether it's hard for them to get out, and I know you were talking about extra activities and that type of thing. I know a lot of students volunteer now for things. And that's one thing I talk to people about if they are feeling depressed or whatever, get out and help other people. Too, because a lot of times whatever you think you're dealing with isn't as big as problem as there may be already out there that other people need help with, and it's good for your mental health too. So lastly, to kind of sum all this up, do you feel like having sessions of people coming into your schools or having mental health summits, that type of thing, do you think that's a good idea?
Yes.
To help students?
Definitely.
Awesome.
You mean like in a mass?
Yeah, like having a mental health summit for a day, have a speaker that comes in and talks to you, and then have breakout sessions for anxiety, depression, bipolar, there's of course obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, things like that. And of course, talking about not self-medicating, because, sadly we do have a huge problem in all ages, all areas with alcohol and drug addiction.
I feel like if you do it in mass, it won't be as effective because in a mass, some people just like to be too scared to come out because you'll call out something saying like, "Oh, if you have anxiety, stand up." No one's gonna stand up.
Yeah,
they're just gonna sit there. So like, if like maybe like they talk to each person one by one, that's gonna be hard, but like it might take like a lot of time. But it's better if you do it one by one.
Yeah.
So everybody
like I know at our school we have our counselors, but they also have a lot of other jobs to tend to. So I feel like it would probably be a really good idea to have people specifically for, reaching out, checking on the students, and like advocating for working on your mental health, making sure that everyone's doing well. Because I know for a lot of students, we wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable walking up to the counselor's office and saying, hey, like I'm having a really hard day, because it's just not really something you do. Exactly. So if there was something that could make that a little bit of a more bearable process, I think that would be a really good step in the right direction. I think at this school, we're really lucky to have the teachers that we do. Like I've definitely had some teachers that on my hardest days, like I could say, hey, I'm having a hard day and here's why. And so that's been something really great. Teachers are a great resource, but they, like I said, like the counselors, they have jobs, they have grades, they have work to do. So it would be good to have a more consistent support system, or like a resource that we could consistently be using to help with our mental health.
someone like for that job specifically, like an in-school therapist specifically.
Yeah. I feel like
That's
it's
a good
also
idea.
I feel like it's also hard. At least it would be hard for me to go up and be like, hey, like, I'm really struggling with this. Like, I feel like kind of what you said, like, it would really help if someone were to like reach out to the kids, be like, hey, how are you doing? And you'll get more of a response rather than having them come up to you, because it's like, if you're already struggling with anxiety, like, it's like putting more anxiety to go out and all do that stuff. So, but when someone asks me about it, I feel more open and I'm like, okay, I can talk about this. Yeah.
I think in general, like large gatherings are really helpful to the people who don't necessarily suffer with mental health issues. But it's good in that it helps people become aware of that and help them become better people to personally talk to people that they know who do have issues, because I think that people who have mental health problems need to speak personally to someone and with that they trust precisely, and it's kind of hard to take that into a larger setting because you're essentially exposing yourself. It's a very private part of your life in that sense. So yeah, in general, though, I think it's a good idea. And we should also have, like what you said, Faith, like local, like closely integrated people to help those who need it out. So I guess in this sense, there are like two levels of that where we can provide help to people who need it.
Yeah, definitely.
Hello, my name is Jane Barnes. I'm the CEO of the Memorial Hermann Prevention and Recovery Center, better known as PARC in Houston, Texas. We are located at 4043 Gessner. We offer all levels of care for substance abuse, for adolescents and adults. We have a detox program here. We have a residential program here. We have day program and intensive outpatient services. We also have 6 intensive outpatient services located throughout Greater Houston. Our primary focus is to help addicts recover from addiction and find resources to continue in a road to recovery.
Hi, my name is Stacy Alphin, and I'm the Director of Program Services for Memorial Hermann Prevention and Recovery Center here in Houston, Texas. We offer a variety of programs from adolescent all the way to adult, inpatient, outpatient, and even some specialty programs. But I'm going to let Tracy talk about those.
Absolutely. My name is Tracy Gowan. I'm a licensed chemical dependency counselor as well as a licensed professional counselor. We offer all levels of care, starting from detox to residential to day treatment and intensive outpatient. We serve the adolescent population starting at age 13 to age 17, and we also address the adult population as well. We have different tracks at our facility. We have a pain recovery program, and this is tailored to individuals that struggle with chronic pain that may be addicted to pain meds. So we help patients help manage their pain without using intoxicating substances. We offer them different coping skills they can use in lieu of using those drugs. We also offer a professionals and executive track as well. We also serve the young adult program, and that's typically ages 18 to 24. So as you can see, we offer a wide variety of tracks, which vary depending on the need of each patient. We offer a individualized treatment plan as well. So we meet the patient where they're at, we ask them what their goals are, and we make the treatment plan tailored to their needs.
In addition, we use a variety of modalities, including action methods, CBT, DBT, we use hypnosis, EMDR, a variety of avenues to help that person get whatever it is that they need from treatment.
Exactly. And for our pain recovery program patients, the patients that struggle with chronic pain, we offer yoga, acupuncture, biofeedback, physical therapy. We teach patients, that motion is lotion. A lot of our patients are really fearful of their pain going up once they stop taking their meds. So this is a really good place to learn how to manage your pain without using drugs or alcohol to cope.
So PARC is a 12-step philosophy-based program, meaning that we believe in complete abstinence as opposed to a maintenance or a harm reduction approach for people that suffer with addiction to mood-altering substances.
So for the psychological part, we see a lot of our patients self-medicate any depression, any anxiety with drugs and alcohol as well. And to address the environmental aspect of this disease, we really encourage patients to build a sober support network. For our adolescent unit, we recommend that our patients go to a recovery high school. It makes it a whole lot easier if you're around people that are doing the same thing. You're more likely to engage in that behavior as well. We also recommend that our patients get involved in alternative peer groups. That provides a really good way for support for the patient as well as the family. So the parents get support from parent support meetings and the kids get support as well. The bottom line, I believe, is that the adolescent population really thrives on structure. So the more structure that you have, there's no what are we going to be doing today? And I really think that the adolescents really thrive on having a structured daily activity schedule. So it's really important for kids to come to treatment that they really follow our daily schedule. And really the things that we teach the patients here, we want them to continue doing those day-to-day activities outside.
Our adult program is awesome. So we have several different types of programs within our adult program. So we have the professional and executives program, which is really geared for those professionals that may have certain licenses on the line. Maybe that you're part of, maybe you're a lawyer, you could be a physician, the nurses. We've had a lot of teachers, a lot of different executives in all kinds of companies. Anybody that you can think of, we've probably had someone from that company. So we're really good at helping those people get back on track, working with whoever maybe their peer assistant board, so to speak, for their licensing, to help them either remain in their profession, hopefully, if that's going to be a good environment for them, or sometimes they need to make a decision to make a change. And so we are just there to help them facilitate and work through whatever those processes are. The majority of people obviously want to keep the career that they've spent all this time, developing and building. So that is our main goal, is to help them get back to a place where they can function in a really safe and productive manner and to have a happier lifestyle. People are so amazed when they leave that program at how many things are tied to the relationships throughout their lives. They lose sight of that in the success and in the use of whatever that substance is for them. So that's our P&E program. And then the young adult program is awesome because we have really spectacular counselors for that particular age group. They do some very different things than the other adults. It's much more peer driven, and because peers listen to peers, that's how it works. So they do a lot of role play. Sometimes they'll come up with skits and perform for the entire facility. They do music. They do just a wide variety of different activities, including working out with our own fitness guy who was on the Ninja Warrior show. So that was really cool. So they get competitive, and we try to make it fun because life is supposed to be a little bit fun too. So if you're not going to be having fun in sobriety, what would be the point of continuing? So there's a lot of that. And then with all of our other programs, people are getting individual sessions, they're getting family sessions. We have a family program that is as good as any other, if not better. I would like to say it's way better than any other program out there, because we really want the families to be involved, because this is not just a stressful time for a person who has addiction issues or anxiety or depression or whatever other mental health may go with that, the family takes a beating at times. They feel helpless, they feel hopeless at times, and our job is really to help empower them in taking their life back so that they can support their loved one in a different way than what they've been doing. So there's many facets to mental health and addiction, and really they're so woven within each other. And it really does takes a village, it really does. You need everyone to be as invested as the family is invested.
Some questions that you may want to consider if you're contemplating whether or not you have a substance use disorder is maybe if you have any withdrawal symptoms when you stop taking drugs or alcohol. Maybe it takes you longer to get high or longer to get intoxicated. That could be a symptom of that you're developing some tolerance as well. If it's interfering with your daily life, if it's causing disruption at school, at work, with your relationships with other people, maybe if you tried to stop on your own and have been unable to. So say, okay, I'm going to stop drinking on Monday, and Monday comes around. Okay, maybe I'll stop tomorrow. Also, if you have intense urges or cravings to use, that may be a symptom that you have a substance use disorder as well. We go by the DSM-5 criteria to diagnose if someone has a substance use disorder, and that's one of the you have to have a substance use disorder in order to be in our program, obviously.
So we do a symptom-driven detox here. So instead of just having a set form that says, okay, this person is having issues with alcohol withdrawal, so we're going to give them X amount of Valium, for instance, every person is met with individually, and based on how many symptoms that they actually are displaying and that are observed by the nursing staff, that is how they determine how much medication, if any, is needed during that detox. Obviously, our want is to have people be comfortable, because it's scary enough when you first come into treatment, but then to look at possibly having to detox, it can be a little nerve-rattling. So we want you to be comfortable, but we also don't want to over-medicate people. So because of this, I think we have a much safer, a much more effective, and a faster result with our actual detox. The other thing that is really important is that we have one of the few detox programs for adolescents in the entire country. So we do the same thing with them. It is, again, symptom driven. It's very safe, and it seems to be very effective, and it's been going on for years and years at the park. So it's really 100%. Also, the patients that are in detox are able to go to any kind of programming that they're feeling up to. So we do have special programming just for detox patients that help them kind of look at maybe why they ended up coming in here, maybe what we might be able to help them with while they're here. Because really in detox, we want them to just kind of go ahead and go through that process of getting things out of their system. But we want them to have some little tidbits of knowledge just in case they're confused about why maybe they came in.
So we have our day treatment, which lasts about 2 to 4 weeks, and it's all based on the need of the patient. Every week we update their treatment plan so we see where they're at, and our day treatment meets here at our facility from 8 till 4, Monday through Friday. We also encourage our patients to continue their support with our aftercare. So our aftercare is awesome as well. It's another support group. Just like a 12-step meeting is peer run, the aftercare is peer run too. And their aftercare facilitator is really a patient that's been through the program and has completed their year of aftercare as well. So we have a very robust aftercare program. Our intensive outpatient program is pretty neat as well, because we can work, if someone works a 9 to 5 job, we have our evening IOP, which is typically 3 hours a day, 4 days a week. And again, the length of the IOP depends on the need of the patient. Typically, we see about 20 to 25 sessions of our IOP program, and the adolescent program as well, which is really nice because we partner with the Recovery High School as well. So they will come here for treatment for their outpatient program. They they will also attend school with the other patients, which is kind of nice because a lot of them, they build their recovery support with their with the other kids that they're in treatment with. So it's really cool to see them all grow, and they really start to hold each other accountable the further along that they're going on in their recovery. So it just warms my heart to see that. But it's really cool because they will go to school here as well as do their intensive treatment with their counselor. So we do process groups as well as CD education. So we're really trying to help them change how they think, really trying to help them, how can I manage my depression? How can I manage my anxiety without using? Because as we know, a lot of these kids will use to self-medicate, they'll use to change how they feel. And when we take away that biggest coping skill, sometimes their mental health does become a primary issue.
So my name is Dr. Kelly Watts. I am a psychologist and resilience coach, and I work often with clients who have experienced trauma. One of the forms of therapy that I use is one of the most popular and research-proven methodologies, which is called EMDR. And Frances Shapiro, who created EMDR, said if she knew how effective and popular it would become, she probably would have given it a cooler name because it stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And what EMDR does, that sounds really complicated, but in fact it's quite simple. The last 10 years there's been an explosion of research around what happens physiologically and specifically in the neurology of your brain when we go through trauma. And in EMDR, or all trauma work really, we think of trauma in two ways. Historically and traditionally, when people think of trauma, they think of some major event, an assault, a car wreck. Veteran experiences obviously often get classified in a traumatic experience list. What we've learned is that those we call big T traumas, and we often have what we call little t traumas. And those are life experiences that we might minimize or not think are as bad because they weren't life-threatening, but they can be similarly damaging, and they have similar processes in our brain in terms of where that information is stored. So over the last decade, and with the advancement of brain mapping and research, we can see what happens in someone's brain when they think about certain things, where certain memories, where your brain lights up when we talk about certain things. And essentially what we've learned is that traumatic memories are stored differently than other memories. And difficult experiences are stored on your right side of your hemisphere of your brain, and the language center of your brain is on the left side. And so that's why talk therapy can be limited. It's helpful with trauma, but it's limited, and there's only a certain amount of healing you might experience. So many clients who have done therapy for many years and found some relief, but not full kind of healing and integration from those experiences, come searching for a different modality. So EMDR clinicians use EMDR, which is a system of activating those memories and stimulating the brain in what we call bilateral stimulation. Again, fancy term to simply mean two sides. We stimulate the right and the left side of the brain so that they talk to each other. So we get those memory networks working and moving in the brain. So EMDR therapists and all trauma therapists usually work with a variety of modalities. And so I might use cognitive behavior therapy and EMDR with a client as we recognize some of the beliefs that have been stored in a dysfunctional way in their brain. So EMDR accomplishes a number of things, and one of the reasons I really appreciate it as a modality is because it doesn't require a client to walk through the details and nuances of a difficult experience. It allows them to activate that part of their brain and move that from a dysfunctional dysfunctional memory to a functional process. So this might occur, for example, if a client had a panic attack while driving across a high bridge. They may then feel like they get panicky or they're scared to even try to drive across a high bridge. And so the body sensations that occur for them, even in anticipation of a similar experience, can be really debilitating. And so we're finding that EMDR is effective for not only the big T traumas, but also for phobias, anxieties, self-esteem and confidence issues, as long as we can focus on a life event that is actually based in your experience, then we can move from there. And what that looks like is, first we get to know each other and talk through, who you are, what you're about. You need to trust me before, obviously, we're going to go into some sort of difficult part of your life. We're going to talk through who you are. We're going to make sure that you don't have any conditions that are contraindicated. So we don't do EMDR with pregnant people because we don't know that it's damaging, but we don't know that it's safe. So we hold fire and wait until that person has had their baby. Also, if you have any sort of seizure disorder or epilepsy like that, moving your eyes in the way that we might use eye movements could be triggering for that seizure disorder. So there are things like that that we consider to make sure that a client is appropriate for EMDR. The other thing we're looking for that is an early phase of EMDR treatment is not even, many people come to EMDR treatment and think we're going to jump right in and do the processing or the bilateral stimulation. And there are a couple phases that we do before that to make sure that a client has the skills to calm themselves. Essentially, I want to teach a client to be the driver of their body and of their neurophysiological experience. So what happens when we have an activating experience is our body goes on hyperdrive and our sympathetic nervous system takes over and tries to protect us from what seems like it's a dangerous experience. And our brain doesn't know the difference between a real experience, a saber-toothed tiger, and an imagined experience of that saber-toothed tiger. And so the physiology of what happens in our body is the same, no matter if it's real or imagined. So it's important that if we do bring up those memories, even in an imagined state, that you have the skills, or a client has the skills, to be able to calm themselves. So we work on physical regulation skills. We work on coping and calming techniques to make sure that that client has the adaptive skills necessary, that if we open up those difficult memories, we're going to be able to pack them away, calm ourselves down, and move through our day between sessions. I don't want to open up anybody's difficult memories and have them feeling really intensely and then send them out into the world in that vulnerable, intense state. So one of the things that many people report back appreciating about EMDR is just the coping skills and formality of walking through coping skills that we do as a preparatory phase. EMDR essentially works with what we call adaptive information processing. It takes memories that were stored and almost get stuck. It's as if you might know someone, or you yourself might have had an experience. We see it, I'm trying to think of everyday examples. We see it in divorce, where someone might obviously go through a hard time, but then years later still be stuck in that difficult emotion around it. When things aren't moving for you, when things aren't getting better over time, then it might be an indicator that some of your memory processes are stuck or frozen and need some help and stimulation to move through to a more adaptive place. Our body has an amazing ability to heal, the same way that if you cut yourself and your body will naturally heal, difficult experiences are naturally processed and our brain is wired to place those in an adaptive place. Typically that happens in REM sleep. It's our brain's time to rest and process everything that happened in the day. If we're having a particularly difficult dream and we wake up in the middle of it, for example, then our brain may not have processed all the way through to completion to put that memory into a place that supports us. EMDR also uses the rapid eye movements, but it's different from dreaming. The clinician makes through that the client stays with the memory and with the processing until we're through to take the trauma processing to completion. The last thing we want is to leave you in what I call the dark tunnel. If we imagine going on a train through a tunnel, and EMDR processing often takes us to these dark places, and for a moment it can feel overwhelming. And so I often tell clients we stop at any point that they want to, but let's get to a break in the tunnel so that at least when we're between sessions or you're between processing, then I want you to take a breath and feel a little bit of reprieve. So part of what I think the skill that I'm trying to teach clients when I'm working with them in trauma work is learning to feel their emotions and not be scared of them. The goal is not to not feel sad or not feel scared or not feel upset if you were wronged or harmed or had a difficult time in any way. The goal is simply to not let those experiences drive you. When we've had challenging life events, if those memories are not placed in a productive place in our mind, then we can often be in a state of reactivity. We know that when someone's had a trauma, that their hippocampus actually can shrink, in which case we may be more animalistic and more reactive to triggering events. I saw a documentary one time about physical pain, and it was studying young children who had chronic physical conditions where they needed invasive treatments. And it was challenging the theory that we should have like a built-up tolerance for, if, for example, if a kid was, had to have needles poked in them often as a child, some doctors and parents and people thought this child should have a tolerance and should be really adept at being poked and prodded. And what they found was quite the opposite, that the human physiology is such that those pain receptors get open and they're more vulnerable. And so we think of it very similarly psychologically. When we've been through big T or little t traumas, it can shrink our hippocampus and it can make us more reactive, if not processed, to the point where we feel like we are more vulnerable to triggering and being reactive. And so we want to shift that for people so that they can move through life and feel like they can be respond without reacting to everything that's happening to them. They can have an emotional experience, take a breath, sit with it, calm their body, and then choose how they want to respond, verbally, behaviorally, or not respond, right? And feel like they have a sense of control. Oftentimes when people have unprocessed trauma, they describe feeling out of control and feeling like they have outbursts or meltdowns. And sometimes other people can't even tell that that's going on. This might happen internally for someone. But it's a very distressing experience to feel like you can't regulate your own emotions. So that as a result, some people start to avoid emotional experiences. They might avoid relationships. They might avoid things that feel similar to what they've gone through before. And so we don't want that trauma to be depicting what your life looks like. I want you to be in the driver's seat. I want you to decide what things work for you, don't work for you, from a place of grounded confidence instead of a place of reactive avoidance. So there are some questions people ask about EMDR therapy. One of the ones I often get is, will I be conscious and in control? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. Some people associate it with hypnosis, but it is not hypnosis. You are fully aware, you're fully conscious. There is kind of a sense of your brain taking on a bit of a role that feels a bit unusual, if I'm honest. It's the only time in my life when I've participated in the EMDR, it's the only time in my life that I can recognize feeling my brain work. And I know that's a bizarre way to describe it, but even after the processing had ended, I could almost feel my brain moving things around. It was a bizarre sense, and it wasn't a physical sense, it was just an awareness I had. So one of the things we know happens for people with traumatic experiences is a disconnection from physiological states. We think this is likely because they get easily overwhelmed, and so then we become disconnected with our bodies. And so EMDR, in its base, is an attempt to integrate our memories, integrate our emotions, and integrate that mind-body connection so that we can really feel like we are in a peaceful space in our lives.